Good, welcome. I'll try to reflect on the theme as it has been mentioned, but I had no prior conversation, so I'm not sure whether my lecture will link to the subject. But I was really intrigued by work, body, leisure, kind of sequence, and that's related to utopian visions versus dystopian visions. When I started my study in Delft, there was always the notion of the danger of the mechanization. One of the books we were discussing often was Mechanization Takes Command. And at that time, I'm talking way back in the other century, it had a different meaning. It was related to to the way that we would construct things. And taking whatever we would construct seriously, that the things that we build do matter. And they do matter beyond the building itself. And if I start with that notion related to work, there were these two books, both written in 1948, and both kind of dystopian visions of what the mechanization would bring to us and basically also to our society. And it was related to this notion that came from the Industrial Revolution, that the machines became bigger than life, and that they somehow put in question who is controlling who. And you saw that in many fields, both in industry but also in art, always this message that mechanization and disaster are related entities. And of course, Kubrick and the computer taking over part of it. And not to go in already into the next lecture, but I always love Constant Nieuwenhuizen. And I love him because he is somebody who looked at all the new developments, but not with a dystopian view, but with a utopian view. Like what does it bring? What does it mean if you don't have to work anymore? And I like it. And of course he stopped his project somewhere in the 60s, and but since then the world evolved. This is a graph that shows how many hours a laborer has to work in order to produce as much as somebody in 1975. So you can see the graph going down. Thanks to the machines, we're becoming more and more efficient. So we're working our way towards New Babylon. And in order to make it even more clear, I added some lines to this graph, which then show you that New Babylon is coming to us in about 20 years from now. Basically, we don't have to work anymore in 2030. If evolution keeps going on like that. And of course, every graph is a lie. This one is no exception, but something is changing. Something is changing in the way we work. And this is another graph produced by Oxford University, showing that with all the new evolutions, about half of our jobs will be replaced. It doesn't mean that we no longer have to work, but it means that a lot of the jobs as we know them will be done by machines, computers, robots, more efficiently than humans can. And the big change is that the first industrial revolution replaced muscle power. Now it's replacing also brain power, which has a different dimension. It's hard to imagine losing half of the existing jobs, changing them. But see what happens in architecture. Losing half of the jobs took only 5 years. So it is happening, it's right amongst us. And something, of course, related to the crisis, but not only related to the crisis. There's more going on. Mechanization takes its toll. And of course it has to do a lot with the new developments, computers. Amazing how short that period is. The computers entering our desks massively is about 1990. It's real short. Our iPhones, our smartphones, only 10 years. And if you see how much and how fast they are changing our lives, And this disruption, I always like this example. Kodak had 145,000 people employed. It went bankrupt. It invented the digital camera, but it didn't take it serious. Went bankrupt, at the same time Instagram with only 13 people employed. It was sold for 1 billion. General Motors, 200,000 people employed. I'm not sure exactly how much it was worth, but Facebook, with only 2,000 people employed, was double its worth. So things change rapidly, fast, and also there we experience this. This is my desk at OMA, drawing table. It only took 5 years between the first computer entering the office and the last drawing table leaving the office. So things change more rapidly than we're used, and completely in line with New Babylon, our profession became nomadic. We can operate everywhere. We are no longer tied to places. And then also that means a lot. It means a lot for the way we work, the way we collaborate. We can do things thanks to new software never been imaginable before, with computers, robots operating everywhere, and machines operating in a way that you never can dissociate that from the moral questions. This is very sustainable, this is very efficient, this is how machines work. But we always have to ask our question, how far do we want to go? And apart from that, is there a way that we can stop developments? Or are things going out of control? Who is in control of all these developments? And that's, you see that in many fields. One of the intriguing fields is the stock markets, where you have the high frequency trading, something no longer controlled by humans, but by algorithms. And the algorithm is a really simple system. You have an input, you give it orders, and then there's the output of the machine. Simple. But this is also an algorithm. And as you can see, between the input and the output, there are steps where a human mind, a human brain will be lost within 1 or 2 steps. This is so complex, especially complex because the best mathematicians of our world are working on it, with algorithms who teach themselves to improve, so no longer humans improving them, but the algorithms themselves. So nobody exactly knows what happens. You only can see what the input is and how efficient the output is. Something where the human brain definitely is no longer in control. And that is how the money in our world is organized now. It's algorithms doing the job, but high frequency trading, no longer able to control it. And it has its astonishing beauty. This is money transactions and the stock market worldwide, real time. This is, I think, the most sublime piece of art you can imagine. It's aesthetically beautiful. It's telling you everything about the real world. And it has an abstraction to it that you hardly can grasp. But this is the real world. And it's a world, again, who is controlling it? We had a very fascinating flash crash. All of a sudden, the Dow Jones dropped, and nobody understood why. It bounced back, and nobody understood why it bounced back. It easily could have collapsed further. No longer, it's these algorithms fighting with each other who do this. Interesting, and also interesting, Goldman Sachs, the one company who made a lot of money during the crisis. Lara, the director, at one moment during an interview said it was a slip of the tongue, we're doing the work of God. They somehow feel that their controlling mechanisms no longer anybody else can control. The body. This is where the systems fail. I'm afraid. That's when you have too much criticism on the machines, they work against you. You should be aware of it. Okay, I'll start again. Okay, we're back in action. The body. Of course, we have witnessed a transition in our society from a society directed towards production towards a society directed towards consumption. The muscles were replaced by the belly, so to say. And of course, that's not where it stopped. It continued, and what we are witnessing nowadays is this change of our society from the real to the virtual. And in that respect, I always show this graph. If you translate the virtual world as the screen you're watching at, the other world, this is a compilation of how many minutes every day we look at the screen, whether it's the TV, your computer, your smartphone. And to put it in perspective, again, I added something to this graph. Every day we are about 1,000 minutes awake. So there you see what it means, this virtual world entering our lives. And it is fascinating how fast this came into our life, and also that this is not the end. It's still going on. And what does it mean? What does it mean for our lives? How does it change? What's the impact on our society? What's the impact on our body? And we see it on every possible domain. For instance, the refugees. Refugees nowadays have their smartphones. They need their smartphones in order to operate, in order to find what direction they can go, to learn from the other people trying to find ways to flee. But it's also this, that if we see something which surprises us, it's the instinct of taking your phone to take a picture. As if you see the real world through your screen, it becomes more interesting or more real. And everybody does this. There's this feeling of the reality doesn't exist as much as it does in your screen. And it takes many forms. This is a vlogger running on the top of a train. Of course, he's really sorry he did, but it opens new ways. It's this strange thing that you're yourself the subject, your 15 minutes of fame, but also this tourists at the Vatican in Rome, St. Peter's Square. You could call that one of the most interesting environments of our world, maybe, but boring. And that is what the writer like Lübeck also says. That in the end, our society will be automized, kind of split up in individuals. And of course, that is also a dystopian view, but see what the social media do to our way of living. And sometimes you wonder, is it only half of our time that we are looking at screens? And it's so much entered our life, changed so much of how our society works, that, and it's a perfect example of newspeak, to call this social media, I think. And of course the question is, what does architecture do? It's there in the real world, in real time. So architecture, you could say, is part of the white virgin area. And our bodies play a role in that. And of course there's a kind of contemplation associated with the way we use our smartphones. And the body somehow, through all these manipulations, becomes more and more a suspect. element. This is, I think, one of the most striking moral value changes that this woman is accused of not wearing a bikini, and the body being suspect, like a Pussy Riot, being secluded in a different box. And this looks like an extreme Putin regime model, but we are all suspect. Nobody is to be trusted. This is when you go flying. The machine is fed by bodies, you could say, and this submission to the machine is part of our life. And the machines are watching us. It's really the big brother. And all these surveillance cameras, it's not people telling who is a suspect personality, it's software. They check your behavior, and they're everywhere. In Great Britain, they're, I think, at the moment at the top, but in Great Britain, every individual is on average filmed 300 times a day. China, it was yesterday in the newspapers, I think, or the day before, putting cameras with facial recognition systems. It's moving fast. Interesting what it does and what it means and what it can do. And Facebook, for instance, based on your likes, can perfectly give a description of who you are. And based on, I believe, 10 likes, it can describe your personality, and with 300 likes, it can describe your personality better than your partner. And it has really nice new questions. We have all seen Blade Runner, where the machine has to prove he is a human, or at least he tries. But this is Blade Runner in reverse. More and more humans have to prove they are not a robot, or not a bot. And of course the body itself becomes the machine. And we always try and we always hope that humans are unique because we have a body and a mind, and the mind never can be copied. But the mind might be the next domain that is being attacked. And you see it in all the fields. The brain is part of what the machine does. Our big friend Elon Musk is also entering this domain now. Brain-computer interfaces. It's happening. It's happening. It's there. And of course, again, the fear of mechanization, the dystopian view, it's hard to avoid if you see what is coming towards us. Our final invention, even Stephen Hawking said it, artificial intelligence, great, but it might be the last great thing we do. To be seen, I have no clue. Usually humans find a way out of it, but it's intriguing to see how radically the questions are redefined. Leisure, to finish with, leisure also, related to the new technologies. And I like these images where the people are really into the game, and these games are getting better and better and better, more realistic, addictive. And of course you can compare it to these two guys, same age, same machine in Nevada, controlling the drones. These are the guys, when they push the button, the drone somewhere in Afghanistan or Iraq will drop a bomb and will kill people. So the two guys on the right are doing it for real. And the strange thing is that the two guys on the left, they're really thrilled. They're into the action. They hardly can stop the game. The two guys on the right, there the biggest question is what they call monotony management. Because their life is extremely boring. They're two in a box, completely locked away. And many missions have failed because both the drone pilots were fallen asleep. And because sometimes they have to wait for days and days, and then there's a line of command, when can you drop the bomb? So it's strange that the real life, what can be more thrilling, more exciting, more dangerous than to kill somebody? But that's where the boring part is. And the virtual world is the one that is entrancing. Weird. And it's going on. I'm just trying to have the utopian view and test where we still like it, what's going ahead of us. This is not just a person, this is a high-skilled scientist. Was one of the zomergasten. She said, well, there is a real chance that the first person who will live 1,000 years is already amongst us. Evolution is going so fast on these domains. And I compared that to this story of Aurora and Venice, because I like the links to religion. This is, of course, Greek mythology. Aurora fell in love with a human. Gods sometimes do that, and it's never a good idea. And she begged Zeus to make her lover immortal. And Zeus didn't like too much, but Aurora kept going on, so in the end Zeus said, okay, he will be immortal. So she was really happy, but what I like about the Greek gods is their sense of humor. So what Zeus did, he made Teutonus immortal, but he didn't make him forever young. So Aurora was born every day fresh, new, beautiful, and her lover became older and older, and in the end was a real old guy, and even Amor couldn't help it anymore. So she turned him into a spider. So that's what I like about Zeus. He is cruel, but with a sense of humor, which makes it slightly better. And I always was disappointed in our own gods. I thought, well, Eve. I like Eve for her courage to take a bite of the apple. Adam was the coward in this story. And I always thought, what is happening with our God? Why is he so angry when they're doing which is so logical? And then punish human mankind. And where you could say, if you talk about leisure, paradise was 100% leisure. And but I think our God also has a cruel sense of humor, because we're working our way back to paradise, but now it's called unemployment, and we fear it. And so I think it's a cruel sense of humor that we're going back to paradise, but have no clue how to live there and how to live our lives if we are in a condition where we no longer have to work, and where our lives could be beautiful if only our state of mind would accept it. And that's something which intrigues me, how through all these different evolutions, our bodies, our work, our leisure becomes different. This is also one way of showing the evolution of the body. We started as Adam and Eve, naked, nothing to hide. The soldier wearing a red dress, here I am, then we started to camouflage, and now we're completely invisible. And so, what is it? Is it shame? Is it guilt? Is it an understanding of who we are, of what we want to be? So I only give the questions. I'm afraid I cannot give any answers. I only want to say whatever happens does mean something. It does mean something what we are, what our society goes through, and it means something. What does mechanization mean in this respect? When you talk work, body, leisure, there are many different angles you can take. For now, I took mechanization. There are many others. The question is, this is happening. You easily could read it as spinning out of control. But the question is, how can you turn this into a utopian future? How can we use it in a way that it is not always the fear, always the dystopian, always the lack of control that makes us nervous? What can we do to rule this, to take command back?